Welcome back, Park Juniors. This will be our third video of some ACT test strategies. Remember that the statewide ACT test is going to be on Tuesday, March 8th. Today we're going to talk about the math section. All right, so today we're going to talk about the basic overview of the math test, what you can expect to see on that test. I'm going to give you a brief look at what TestNav looks like for the math section. And then I'm also going to give you a few math strategies that can really help you get your biggest bang for your buck through this math test. All right, so here's what you can expect on the math test. 60 minutes to do 60 questions. That's 1 minute per question. So it's really important that number one, you pace yourself, but also try to bank as much time as possible. Answer questions that you can answer quickly and then save some for later when you know how much time you have left to go back to. It's really going to be important to pace yourself and bank time. Topics on the math test include pre-algebra and algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, and then there's some statistics and probability, and then some trigonometry. Now, the test is laid out in that order. So the earlier problems on the test are going to come from the pre-algebra algebra side of things. And as you get further along in the test, so maybe the last 10 or so are going to be those algebra 2 and trigonometry, harder, tougher questions. So TestNav is going to look very similar to the English test that we've talked about. When you first log in, you're going to see these directions. Just like last time, I'm going to suggest get familiar with these before the test and then save that time of the minute or two that it would take you to read these directions because now you're familiar with them. Again, up in the top right corner, you're going to see your timer. It starts timing as soon as you hit start. So again, keep an eye on your timer and make sure you know how much time you have left. And then to get going on the first question, you're going to hit this blue arrow and get started. All right, so the questions are going to look very similar to this. You're going to see your question in the box like this, and then your answer choices listed below. Once again, the answer eliminator is up there. You can click on that X up top and then click on the answers that you think are not correct answers, and you can eliminate them. Just be sure to switch back to the pointer before selecting your answer. And then again, you hit that arrow to get to the next question. Now, there is a link to a Desmos graphing calculator in this test. Math is the only one that you are going to have this button. Now, if you are very familiar with Desmos, feel free to use this button. However, I suggest that you use the calculator that we give out on testing day rather than this Desmos calculator because it's something you're more familiar with. It's going to be the same type of calculator that you've had in all of your math classes and even some of your science classes. So you'll probably be more familiar with how to use that calculator instead of the Desmos one. All right, so here's some math strategies for you. We talked about this last video, but process of elimination, it's kind of your best friend through a lot of the different ACT tests. So in this one, you eliminate answer choices that you know are incorrect. So for example, we have this problem where we have 27/64 raised to the negative 2/3 power. So we're going to use what we know about negative exponents to eliminate the two that are obviously wrong choices. What we know about negative exponents is that it doesn't turn the answer negative, it just flips the numerator and denominator. So answer A and B are wrong because they have negative answers. So now you've got yourself down to 3 choices. So if you were to have to guess, you could guess between 3 choices instead of 5. However, for this problem, just type it into your calculator. It will give you the correct answer. All right, another math strategy is called ballparking. This is where you make really good estimations based on either an image or based on the situation given in a problem. This one works really well for those geometry ones where you have a picture of something, but it also works really well in a word problem where they're giving you a situation and certain numbers just aren't going to fit into that situation. So for example, with this image that we have here, they're asking you to find the length of that whole side AC. So, given the information that we see on the left side of the image, and then the one piece that we do see on the right side from A to E is 16, we can kind of ballpark that choices A, B, and C are going to be too small of a measurement. If we see AD is 8 and AE is 16, that's doubling. So that means that every time those sides are going to be doubling, and then we have to add them all together. So we can ballpark or make a good estimate that A, B, and C are too small. So now, again, if you don't know how to do this problem, you could make a good guess between two answer choices instead of all five, which ups your probability of getting the answer correct. The third strategy I have for you is to draw a picture of the problem. If you have this word problem and it's talking about distance or any kind of situation, you can always draw a little picture. Now, if you're taking a paper test, you just write it right in the book and you have your scratch paper. But when we're taking the computer-based system, you're going to have to use your scratch paper. You're going to be given some scratch paper. Use it to your advantage. So here I've drawn this little picture. He travels 8 yards east, and then he goes 6 yards north, and then he goes 12 yards east, and then he goes 5 yards north. So I drew this little picture, and we want to know, well, how much time could he save if he just walked straight from the one door to the other? So the diagonal instead of all of these turns. So by drawing this picture, we can see that this is just a Pythagorean theorem problem. We add the two east measurements and the two north measurements, and then we're finding the length of the hypotenuse. So it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All right, so your three math strategies. Process of elimination, eliminating answer choices that you know are incorrect based on your background knowledge. Ballparking, making good estimates based on the image or the situation within the problem. And then draw a picture. Use your scratch paper. And then there's some strategies you need to remember for the whole test. We've been talking about these in all of these videos. Okay, these are the ones that are going to work for every test throughout the ACT. The first one, now, later, never. If you are working on a question and you've got it and you can answer it quickly, do it now. If you're looking at a question and you don't even know what it's asking, that's a never question. Pick your column of the day, guess, and bank that time for a later problem. Because then we have those later ones. They're ones where you're like, I think I can figure this out, but I'm going to need more than that minute. So then you go back to those later when you know how much time you have left. And the one to remember, you guys, don't leave any answer blank. Keep an eye on your timer. When it gets to 5 minutes left, fill in the rest of the answer choices with your column of the day. Remember, you're going to get statistically more correct if you go straight down a column rather than bouncing around all over the answer choices. Additionally, if you have those never questions and you have to guess, use that same column as well. All right. If you have any questions about the math portion of the ACT test or about the ACT in general, you can always contact me. My name is Amy Bloom. I'm the instructional coach here at Park High School. You can email me or you can find me in the engagement office.